Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to our PSVillage webinar on human capital supply and demand. My name is Joe Longo. I'm the VP of Client Services for PSVillage and a longtime advisor to Terry Jansen, the founder. Terry's on the call as well today, but I know she's got us on mute. Hi, Terry. And I'm also joined by 5 panelists today who will be doing their presentations on each of the executive breakfasts that they attended, and I'll be introducing them in a moment. But first, a quick word about PSVillage. So if you're not familiar with us, we're a global community of over 5,000 professional services executives representing over 750 companies in the technology sector. And PSVillage is the destination for services leaders looking for best practices, thought leadership, problem solving, and just some networking. If you go to our site, you'll see all the tools we provide, including the industry benchmark, an interactive forum where people can share best practices and lessons learned. Lots of great white papers written specifically by our members for PSVillage, member spotlights and profiles, an excellent resource library with tools for services executives, and information about our executive network events that we'll be talking about today. And if you're not already a member, you can easily join just by going to psvillage.com/join. Guest membership is free. Premium membership, it gets you access to all the tools you see here. And of course, we have corporate membership, whereby everybody in your services organization gets access to all the tools as well. Excuse me. And the little asterisk there is there to remind me to tell you that we have a promotion going on right now. If you join as a premium or corporate member by the end of the year, you'll get a significant discount. Just go to our website. In the invitation you got for this webinar, there is a code you can enter in to get that discount. And as I said, it's active till the end of this year or until the end of the world, which apparently is scheduled for Friday, whichever comes first. Okay, so let me move on then to the topic for today's webinar. So we're talking about managing human capital supply and demand, and what we're really doing today is really summarizing the best practices and the discussions that came out of our executive breakfast. We hold executive breakfast twice a year in the spring and in the fall. Today we're focusing on the fall events. We had 10 in the fall at these cities that you can see here. We have so much information that we really can't do it justice to try and squeeze all 10 in the 1 hour that we have. So we're going to condense it to just a handful. Even so, I should apologize in advance. I believe we'll probably run a little bit over, maybe 15 minutes or so. If you have to drop off, we'll send you the link to the recording so you can download the recording at a later date and listen to the pieces that you may have missed. And as I said, I'm joined today by our panelists. These folks here were the co-leads for the executive breakfast in their respective cities. And firstly, I want to thank them sincerely for the time they've spent to prepare for the webinar today because, like everybody, they've got real jobs. So here we have Irene for the San Francisco Bay Area. Keith will be talking about Atlanta. Ray for Austin. Jeff for Chicago. Steve for Denver. And, oh, that's me. Okay, I won't be saying much once I get going. I also want to thank our executive breakfast sponsors. Without these guys, PSVillage wouldn't be as vibrant as it is. They're not just our sponsors, but they're also great partners of ours, NetSuite, 10 Rocks, Financial Force, and CompuWare. And they've joined us at each of the executive breakfasts throughout the year, and they've contributed quite a bit to PSVillage. So thanks to them as well. As we go forward, we'd like to take questions from you. We haven't got a lot of time. We've got about 12 to 15 minutes for each of the speakers. But if you have a question, by all means, type it into the little question box on your dashboard and go to meeting. I'll try and take the questions live if we have time with the speaker. If we run out and we move to the next speaker, then what I'll do is I'll batch the questions and take them at the very end. So that's it from me. And what I'd like to do is then get started with our first speaker. And that is Keith McInish. Keith McInish is Managing Director of Worldwide PS at Rocket Software. And Keith was one of the co-leads at the Atlanta breakfast. I have to say this about Keith. I thought I've been associated with PSVillage the longest out of all the people since 2005. But when we were chatting with Keith earlier this week, it turns out he's been to every single executive breakfast, and he actually trumps me. So apparently I missed one. So congratulations to Keith. Keith, are you there?
I am, Joe. Thanks very much.
Terrific. Well, I'll hand over to you.
Okay, thank you for the introduction, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak today.
Yeah, tell us a
And
little bit about Atlanta, Keith, before you jump into the data.
Sure. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you were saying, Joe.
Oh, I was just wanted to say, sorry to interrupt you, Keith. I wanted to say to everybody that Atlanta is one of our most popular breakfasts. It gets sold out within hours of opening. So as we go into this, just tell us a little bit about that group in Atlanta and how closely knit they are.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So we have a real vibrant group in the Atlanta PSVillage Executive Breakfast Series. Many of us have been coming since the first breakfast, which was, let's see, about 6 years ago in the fall. In fact, I think it was almost exactly 6 years ago. And very much a sense of camaraderie. The Atlanta technical community, even though it's a city of almost 5 million people, it seems to be a small town when it comes to the technical community. So many of us have crossed paths in our careers in previous lives, or at least we have worked with other people who have worked with the other folks in the breakfast. And so there's it's a very strong group, and great group of folks. And it's just nice to be able to get together and kind of compare notes and stories and challenges with one another on a twice or three times a year basis.
Great, thanks. Okay.
Okay, so I guess we were asked to just pick a couple of the topics that were covered in the most recent breakfast on resource management. And one of the topics that really stuck out for us and for me is the changing face of the resources that we're bringing into the business. And what I mean by that is that we're all now being asked to do more with less, and budgets are being cut, and it seems like many of the areas that are the first to go are in training and internships and things like that. Back in the dark ages when I started in this business, we had, in many cases, very formal boot camp type training programs. I actually attended a boot camp style training both at EDS and later at Price Waterhouse. And those were really focused on bringing in mostly recent college graduates, people that were new to the business, and they had a very strong focus on not just transferring the technical skills to make the person successful in their consulting career, but also the soft skills. What does it mean to be a consultant? What's a successful way to travel? How do you build client relationships? How do you handle yourself in the field? What's expected of you? And there were great programs, but unfortunately, most of those have kind of gone away now. There's very few companies that have formal programs like that, and the ones that do have kind of scaled back. And as a result, what we all seem to be experiencing is the college recruiting and college hiring has diminished greatly, which you see every day, the stories of the number of recent college graduates that are unemployed. And I think that's kind of reflective on this lack of a strong desire to invest in new talent. So what we're all forced to do is to go out and search for experienced consultants who are kind of field tested, that know what they're doing, that are expected to hit the ground running and to be productive almost immediately. And it also means that we have to find creative ways to fill positions from internal hires. And so the most common way to fill a job is either to find an experienced consultant who has that field experience, or in some cases we see that companies do have internal programs to grow their own talent. It takes a lot longer than a college grad going through a boot camp. But examples of those that we've seen and that seem to be quite successful actually are, for instance, bringing people in a software company into the support desk where you're somewhat shielded. You can start as a level one. You have people surrounding you that can back you up if you get into a situation that's over your skill and over your experience, and grow that skill and experience to the point where you can advance through the support desk and eventually begin to work with customers either on-site or off-site or both as a field consultant. And those seem to be the programs that are getting more play now, rather than the boot camp style kind of hardcore programming that we might have seen 20 or 30 years ago. So it just seems to be a kind of a transitioning of the resources that are entering the business nowadays, and how we have to change our business to accommodate those. Okay, so one of the other topics that came up in the conversation at breakfast, and one that I feel very passionately about, is how to be more successful in working with our own internal sales teams, and not just help ourselves to be more successful, but to help our customers be more successful. And, you know, many of us that have been in this business for a number of years will kind of lovingly relate to our sales team as in terms like the dark side, or you know, they're coin operated, or whatever terms you may have for your own group. And to a certain extent, that may be true, but the reality is, in my philosophy, my personal philosophy, is that at a software company, we all have either one of two jobs. You're either in sales or you're in sales support. Because if you're not selling software or services, somebody's got to do that, because that's what keeps the lights on and that's what pays our bills. And if you're not selling, then you should be doing something that helps the people that sell to sell more. Without those actions happening, we may as well just close the doors. And I think we all have to kind of come to the realization of which one of those roles we're in and how can we be more effective at it. So I came to a conclusion a number of years ago that if I wasn't going to be a quota-carrying salesperson at a software company, then I need to find a way to help my salespeople be more successful. And I also came to the realization that if I let them just run wild without participating in that process, I might be the lucky recipient of projects where, let's just say, client expectations may have been overset, or our abilities may have been somewhat oversold, or perhaps the project itself may have been underscoped, and it makes for a very uncomfortable transition from sales and a difficult position for us to succeed in. And at the end of the day, successful customers are referenceable customers, and they like to buy more of our services. So my solution to that, and one that many of us at the Atlanta Breakfast discussed, is how do we partner with our sales team for success? How do we help them be more successful, get more involved pre-sales, offer our time and our talent and our people in the pre-sales process, so that we can accomplish a number of things. One is the deal now is not unknown to us. We understand the challenges that customers are going to be facing, and we can start formulating our solution for them even before the deal is sold. It also introduces the post-sales resources to the customer before they sign the deal. They become more comfortable with those people, with the project managers and the tech leads and even the consultants, and they feel comfortable with that handoff. So it becomes a very smooth transition from pre-sales to post-sales, rather than the clunky transitions where we're all working our separate jobs. It also generally will help us to set the client expectations much more realistically. And one of the things that was impressed upon me in the early days at Pricewaterhouse is that our number one job is managing expectations. And as long as you do that effectively, then there's no bad news. There's no surprises. No one feels like they got hornswoggled or, sold a bill of goods. And as long as everyone's expectations are managed and met, then we should be successful. So I really get passionate about working with sales. I take that responsibility very seriously. I impress that upon our people, that that's their job as well, because at the end of the day, we're setting the table for ourselves, and we want to set it in the best possible way, and it helps us as a consulting organization to be more successful. It helps our salespeople be more successful, which, by the way, gets them coming back to us asking for this assistance, and it makes our customers more successful and more referenceable. And so that's the cycle of growth that we want to develop in the kind of the ecosystem we'd like to develop there. So Joe, those are really the topics that I wanted to cover today, but I'm open for any other questions if anyone has anything. Hello?
Joe, are you on mute?
Keith,
Joe, I'm not hearing you if you're speaking.
Keith, yes. Before we move on, there are a couple of questions from folks, and I'm going to read those in a sec. But I just want to make a couple of comments about this relationship with sales. I've always found that for folks like us in a customer environment, we tend to have what we consider a different value system to the sales folks, and I think really it's unfair and unjustified for the sales folks. I mean, they're trying to do their jobs, and just like you say, the closer you get to them in understanding their pipeline and their expectations, then the much more smoother it's going to be within your company and for the customers as well. So one of the things I've done is I've sat in on their pipeline calls, and I've also had weekly meetings with the VP of sales, so that at the highest level we have this open communication. And getting closer to the sales folks, I recommend that to everybody, regardless of how they may be seen, as you said, coin operator and all those other derogatory terms. But before I go on, Keith, and before I let you go, we're just almost at the end of your session. There was a great comment made here by Andrew, and I just want to read pieces of it. He says, it's regarding your comment up here with the lack of training. He says it's a rather shocking development, and I think he's in agreement with you, Keith, and I am too. A solid and well-developed training program not only provides training for your internal staff, says Andrew, but your partners and your customer base as well. And this is not just a situation that will scale effectively at all and will result in more real costs. I like what you say here, Andrew. He says a lot more, but he also recommends against trying to get your people to learn on the job. So great feedback.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it is kind of a depressing reality of the market that we're in now. And it's not that all training has gone away, but I've seen the formal programs, the kind of boot camp styles, greatly diminished. And it does present a challenge. There's no doubt about it.
There are a couple other questions. There's a comment here by John who says, if you keep hiring senior consultants, you become top heavy. So that is a challenge for sure. And there is a question here from Lisa. Let me read that before you head off here, Keith. And she says, how do the companies who hire support as the entry to consulting help the people transition from a mental state of react to the problem to one of anticipate and lead from the front? This, I think, is almost a rhetorical question, but you want to comment on that, Keith?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say how everyone does it. I can tell you that we have done this in my company, probably not to the extent of some of the folks that attend the breakfast. I know at John's company, which is a SaaS company, this is kind of their model, and this is how they build and grow their talent. But in our case, we start by introducing those support resources into consulting situations on a kind of a limited scale to begin with. So I've actually had and still have people that are still part of the support desk that will get a small assignment. It may just be a few days, and it may start out with just remote work where they're working within the office, being under the tutelage of one of our tech leads. So it helps them manage the process and the client relationship in a controlled environment, and it's taking baby steps. So they'll take a few small engagements like that. We'll introduce them to some projects, or if we have a larger project where they can be one of the team and do that as a part-time assignment while they're still manning the support desk, that's a way for them to get their toes wet, if you will, while they're in this transition, this career path transition to becoming a field consultant.
Yeah, good point. Thanks, Keith. Well, listen, Keith, we're at the end of your time. I know we've got another slide here, but we are going to talk about college hire with Ray, who's coming up next. So thanks, Keith. Fantastic information. And we have a couple other questions. We'll take that towards the end.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.